The next presentation will be on engineering geology in active mountain beds by Professor Shuichi Hasegawa.
Thank you for kind invitation of this conference. I especially would like to express my appreciation to Dr. Rajakumar Dahar. At this keynote lecture, without him, I cannot accomplish this keynote lecture. My lecture is firstly planning to prepare to younger student of Turiba University, but I have no chance. So it's a good time for me to present here. Aim of this presentation is to provide background. Aim of this presentation to provide a background and characteristic of topography and geology of Himalaya and Shikoku, South Japan, and to provide engineering geological issues on hydrothermal alteration due to Miocene volcanism in non-volcanic regions, and to provide engineering geological issues on large-scale landslide and active faults. The experience gained by engineering geologists from Shikoku Island, Japan, can be effectively used in Nepal. This is I'd like to introduce first technical setting of Himalaya and Japanese Alps. Himalaya is situated over the collision zone of Indian plate and the Eurasian plate. On the contrary, Japan is situated over the subduction zone of Pacific and Philippine Sea plate under the Eurasian plate. In spite of different technical setting, the Himalaya and southern Japan have similar engineering geological issues. Do you know Himalaya has been formed as a result of collision of Indian Eurasian plate, and Himalaya has suffered great damage from massive intraplate subduction earthquake produced by plate subduction. Himalaya has a huge difference in elevation in short distance. That's the reason that flooding and rainfall landslides are frequently in monsoon season during the summer. This is a typical rainfall induced landslide in monsoon time. Japan is also an earthquake country, and we have two types of damaging earthquake. First is shallow inland earthquakes caused by active fault, and second is subduction earthquake. Kobe earthquake and Tohoku earthquake, typical type of this earthquake. This figure shows the geologic profile of Southern Japan. Southern Japan were formed by violent subduction techniques, which include both the formation of accretional prisms and intrusion of granite. Although Shikoku is located continentally non-volcanic region, the middle icy granite beneath the Mesozoic and Paleozoic accretional prism have played important roles in mountain building and engineering geology. Probably buoyancy of higher Miocene granite might have acted as a driving force of upheaval of the Shikoku mountain range. This picture is one of the typical hot spring in non-volcanic regions. temperature of water is almost 90 degrees centigrade. Very hot. Now, almost boiling. Heat source of a hot spring is equal to residual heat of micin intrusive bodies. And ore deposit originated from the shallow hydrothermal alteration during after myosin granite intrusion are widely distributed in Shikoku, especially around the MTL. This is Krishna. So I can. It's okay. MTL. Second. MTL here. This Landsat image suggests that the MTL mediated incline marks a striking contrast in topography between mountain and alluvial plain in Shikoku, southwest Japan. Nankai Tract, the subduction is located far south to the Shikoku mountain range. The MTL is a predominant active fault and high hydrothermal alteration zone. This picture shows the fault scarp and fault zone of mediatic incline in Shikoku. Shear and hydrothermally altered zone is very important in engineering geology because it contains smectite as a clay minerals and from pyrite, not from but pyrite. It's called the acid soil. It is difficult to detect hydrothermal alteration zone from the surface because the weathering is prepared on the surface. So, helicopter-borne electromagnetic method is very useful for detecting clayey hydrothermal alteration zone as low resistivity zones. This figure shows the result of Helm's resistivity by M along the MTL. Red part is low resistivity, and blue zone indicate high resistivity. As you know, MTL represents a low resistivity zone. Sometimes very wide, and sometimes little narrow. This is a characteristic of hydrothermal alteration zone. Sliding surface of large-scale landslide along the MTL are closely related to hydrothermal alteration. This picture shows a deep-seated small landslide occurred in the high cut of the road construction. Deep-seated landslide occurs at the bottom and the lower part of the cut. Usually, the rock mass becomes fresh and strong beneath the deep in the ground, but this cut slope is quite different. Rock must become worse and worse beneath the ground. And bottom of the cut, there happened a landslide. The sliding surface is composed of clay zone contain composed of smectite other clay minerals. Sometimes heavy anchor works is necessary for protection of landslide alongside MTL. Details, please refer Ito-san to present a poster presentation on first day. The second engineering aspect is large-scale landslide. Most of the shallow landslide is surface expression of active deep-sea landslide. And some landslide is very huge to detect. And some is completely dissected. So it is very difficult to detect only from topography. Kirihata here was the old ancient huge landslide about 1 million years ago, and dislocated by this MTL by about 2 or 3 kilometers. This figure shows the dissection relation between formative ages and degree of dissection of large-scale landslide in Japan. Topography of large-scale landslide have been completely dissected in 1 million years. So it is very important. Huge dissected landslide mass is remain along the active fault. This left circle shows the distribution of large-scale landslide in Shikoku. It is very related to the MTL. This is a large-scale landslide, but it is very difficult to detect the surface or dry from the surface. And from that point, we can evaluate rock mass characteristic of tunnel around the MTL. Usually, sandstone is good rock mass rating than sandstone, but it is very different. So we try to divide it rock mass characterization by the viewpoint of landslide or hydrothermal alteration. And this shows the less of rock mass grade in each one type in tunnel expressway. As you know, M type is a sound rock mass is very good. And S type is only landslide worse. And hydrothermal alteration type is bad, and it looks like worst. It is hydrothermal alteration and landslide type. But the result conversion is little different. Hydrothermal alteration type tunnel ground is worst. So the experience gained by Japanese engineer in geologists in Shikoku can be effectively used in Nepal. And another suggestion is sometimes deep cave in limestone is caused by hydrothermal alteration. This was happening in Shikoku. Let's think the engineer geological issue in the Himalaya. Himalaya is geology is very well, but from my viewpoint, leucogranite in higher Himalaya is very important because this is leucogranite. Leucogranite is might be a crypt of Himalaya closely related to to Miocene glucogranite. And topography between Himalaya and Shikoku region. Higher Himalaya is corresponding to Shikoku Mountains. Both have a Miocene granite beneath the ground. An important fact is higher Himalaya subsided as a result of thrusting during 2015 volcano earthquakes. Distribution Miocene glucogranite and hot spring indicate that the glucogranite is a heat source of hot spring, and MCT and related follow the path of this hydrothermal alteration. This is one of the Tatopani hot springs in higher Himalaya. Yeah, excursion 5 planned to visit this hot spring, but we abandoned because the road is completely destroyed by a rainstorm in rainstorm. This is fault, but mostly fractured by hydrothermal alteration. It's a sliding surface of large-scale landslide. So, notice the past hydrothermal alteration in Himalaya. And hydrothermal alteration due to granitation of Miocene glucogranite is the geological cause of this deep-seated landslide. And future express highway with high cut slope will face the fault with past hydrothermal alteration. And second, we'd like to suggest that notice the large-scale landslide here behind small-scale landslide. This is typical shallow landslide, but behind the shallow landslide, large-scale landslide exists. This is a schematic profile of this landslide. Tansen is an old town, but it is located in a large-scale landslide or dissected landslide bodies. This figure shows an outcrop of a picture of landslide spread and crushed rock. This is a completely crushed by landslide. This is not technique deformation. So the future express highway in Nepal will require high cut slope in large-scale landslide materials. And research on deceptive landslide in Himalaya is now started. We are in Kathmandu Valley. Kathmandu Valley is very abnormal because this valley is very extraordinarily wide and high in elevation. How Kathmandu Valley has been formed? Now, present outlet of Kathmandu Valley is located at the southern part of Kathmandu Valley. There was a large-scale landslide, but it is too small to dam up Bagmati river and too small. In fact, this landslide dam up Bagmati river and burst out, but they are too small to form Paleo-Kathmandu Lake. My idea is, hypothesis is Kathmandu Valley might have been formed by giant landslide. This is large-scale landslide. This is a scar, and this is a secondary large-scale landslide. and this is also landslide permit. Suenabut, Mugi Temple is located rootless, rock mass. Yeah, this is the topography of southern part of margin of Kathmandu Valley. My hypothesis is this was landslide, and this also, Suenabut, and this also. This dammed up this valley. And originally, Kathmandu Valley is a tributary of Trisi River. This idea is very tricky, but Gorka earthquake might support this hypothesis. Damage due to Gorka earthquake are much smaller than expected because PGA observed at Kathmandu Valley is less than 200 yards and long periods. And second, earthquake-induced landslide are very few in Midland. This is Midland. Distribution landslide is very few in Midland. It is abundant in higher Himalaya and Mahabharata range. And this is a situation. So I plan to visit research after the earthquake. Around the, this is Kapani area and higher Himalaya region. First, I prepared the topography effect map proposed by Uchida-san. It's named FRE. The function is slope, curvature, and PGA. It represents the topographic effect which might cause landslide. So we don't know the exact PGA. So we prepared 3 types of PGA in body map according to 3 PGA. This is high Himalaya zone. If F value is same, the probability of occurrence of landslide almost same. But higher Himalaya Midland, same topography, but different response. This topographic effect suggests that bedrock condition of Midland is more fractures compared with that of higher Himalaya. This is my estimation. Let's look. This is a higher Himalaya, very steep slope and with slightly better hard rock. This is nice. On the contrary, Midland is very gentle slope and fractured and strongly weathered bedrock. This is meta sandstone. So, fractured bedrock in Midland might act as cushion during broadcasting. So the strong tremor of short period discrete only the decreased, and only tremor of long period remained. So rock mass, fractured rock mass of landslide origin must have acted as bedrock cushion. This support excursion first one visited Monkey Temple. It is on the, it might be on the bedrock, but this fragile houses remain. Only the tower of destroyed. This is support my hypothesis. And Kathmandu Valley consists of thick lake deposit. It have act as upper tissue. So Kathmandu is have little damage as volcanic aspect. Yeah, this is can you imagine this was landslide origin? Both here, my hypothesis, this is huge landslide origin. The expressway tunnel is planning under this, beneath this here. So tunnel construction might prove our hypothesis. What type of this here? So the experience made by Japanese Indian geologists in Shikoku might effectively used in Nepal. And finally, I have to say the cause of huge landslide. Probably active fault is located beneath huge landslide. But it is very difficult to detect. So this is a concrete remark and suggestion to engineer geologists in Nepal. Notice the sign of hydrothermal alteration in non-volcanic regions. Notice the large-scale landslide here behind the small scale landslide. Notice the completely dissected large-scale landslide, which looks like here in front of high mountain range. And notice it is, I think, different active fault covered by large-scale landslide. So experience again. This is my message to Indian geologists in Nepal. Thank you for kind attention.
Thank you, Professor Hasegawa, for giving a really good overview of landslide-related processes in Japan and also in Nepal. I think the topics is too broad and there are too many questions, but I think we'll limit to just one.
I've seen the gold occurrences in Rolpa, and these are definitely related to hydrothermal alteration.
Oh, yeah.
You have magnetite, hematite, and other minerals, and this is the only place where you have occurrence of gold, in situ gold.
Gold, yeah.
So what it boils down to is that this is definitely a hydrothermal alteration deposit, but the system is very limited, it's very poor. So some of the previous workers, what they have said is, you look for hydrothermal areas, hydrothermally altered areas in other parts of the world, like other parts of Nepal, and possibly you could get into one of a bigger hydrothermal system in which you might have find good concentration of So this is not in the high Himalayas per se, but as you said, these thrust sheets are coming down also. Either the MCP is coming down. So there are so many places. Possibility of this.
Thank you for.
What is your comment on this?
Very good comment. Articulate. I find Himalayan quartz crystal. It means not metamorphism. Only this is might be the hydrothermal or shallow hydrothermal alteration. The Sunkoshi River is gold mining area, I heard. But so it is very strong support this ancient hydrothermal alteration. And moreover, now present hot spring is a hydrothermal system. in Himalaya, I think. Thank you very much.
Okay, let's
We want to use the microtremor change study. This may be a new method for you. We use this method to evaluate the internal structure of the Lancer Dam. Then we use the self potential measurement to check where is the underground water flowing. And then at the downstream site, we can measure the turbidity of the water, especially for the newly formed Lancer Dam. Then finally, we can use GPS to monitor the surface movement of the Lancer Dam. So the contents of this part include, we have two contents in this part. So the first, I will introduce the method to investigate the internal structure of the Lancer Dam and give you some results of applying the microtremor method and self potential method in the two landslides dam. One is in Japan, but another one is located in Kyrgyzstan. The second one, I will introduce some mechanism of the Lancer Dam failure piping. I will introduce some performance of the turbidity and the deformation monitoring in an outdoor small-scale Lancer Dam failure test. So the first, this shows the principle of the microtremor method. Generally, this is the microtremor array survey. So you can see through the four seismometers, three located in the triangle at the top of the triangle, and one is located in the center. Okay, so through the four seismometer, we can get the one-dimensional structure under the central point. Okay, so what is microtremor? Microtremor is very common for us. It's a positive one. So when the truck pass by, when somebody close walking pass by, they will can feel some microtremor. Yeah. So we want to make use of this kind of microtremor to investigate the underground internal structure. Yeah. We don't need a big hammer. We don't need any bar for that. Okay. So in the nature, because we have a different source of the microtremor, so we can get different vibration with a different frequency, which are corresponding to different wavelengths. Okay, so we make use of this one. Actually, this is called dispersion phenomena of phase velocity. Okay, so based on this kind of data, then we can get the relationship between the phase velocity and the frequency. Yeah, so this we call this one is the dispersion curves. Okay, so through this one, if the underground structure is different, we get different curves. Okay, so based on this kind of curves, we can estimate the internal structure of the ground. So this is the principle. Yeah. Before we conduct our study, this method is already existing. So what we want to do? Yeah, we in this study we developed a new method, which we call it the microtremor chain array survey. Yeah, we not only use the just the four, we use it like that. Yeah, make that like a chain. Yeah. So from this one you can see we use this four seismometer. We get the information at this point. So we move this one to this point. Yeah, and just rotate it like this. So with this four seismometer, we get the information at this point. Okay, and then we put it like this way. They will get the result at this point, this point, this point. So like something like that we can get. If we put totally like this, 12 seismometer, we can get the two-dimensional internal structure of the Lancer Dam or any underground like this. So to verify whether this method is effective or not. So to verify this method, at first we conduct some trail test measurement along irrigation dam. So behind this dam is a small lake used for the irrigation. Okay. So as you can imagine, this is the part, because this part is a refilled, it's an artificial dam. So the structure should be loose than the ground. Okay. So we make a measure line on the top of the dam. So something like that. We use the array size. We call the distance between the two seismometer. We call this array size. Okay. So in this case, we use the 1.5 array size. Then we make the measurement. Okay. So before we go to the result, at first I want to show you under this at this point of the dam, there is a piping hole. Okay, so you can imagine this point should have a loose structure than the surrounding area. And this pipe, this line is some spillway, so water may sometimes overflow along this over this spillway. Okay, so this one is to give you the result. You can compare that. So in the part of the refilled lancet part, you can see a very loose structure. Okay, the lower velocity is a loose structure. Yeah. Well, then when the become deep, then the fish velocity becomes bigger. And this part and this red part should be the original ground. Okay. So through this kind of examination, we can believe that this method can be demonstrate the reliability of this method in the actual case. Yeah. So that's why it's for the cell potential. Yeah. What is cell potential? Cell potential is quite simple for the electrokinetic process. So here this shows the example. Underground, here we can have an underground flowing path. The groundwater flowing will take away the positive ion, we call it the quotient, away. So if the water passes by this way, then the negative one, the minus ion, will be reached. Then if we measure, we make a cross line, major line on the ground. If here underground flowing existed, then we can get a result like this. Yeah. So at this part we get a negative cell potential. So through this way, we can determine where is the underground water flowing. So we select the biggest one, the Takezawa landslide dam, to apply our method. Yeah. So the landslide occurred in 2004, and we can measure when we apply the method there is 10 years later. So we can see the landslide area has been flat like this. So it's very easy for us to apply the method there. So these two sections shows the two longitudinal sections like this. So we can see, even now, we can see the sliding surface, is structured like this, to the right side. And this result shows the cell potential. Okay. So next, I'll move to the case study in Kyrgyzstan. We can see Kyrgyzstan is near, located in Central Asia. This is a very big desert area. So just at 90 kilometers far from the capital city of Bishkek, there is a very big lancet dam there. We call it the Tor lancet dam like this. You can see this is the lancet dam. At the upstream side is the big lake. In the whole year, the water is there. And at this part, and at this point, we can find the water always comes out. Okay, so this upstream side and the downstream side. You can imagine the piping or the internal erosion always occur there. Okay, so actually we also roughly calculated the hydraulic gradient in this site is about 0.225. Actually, this water is deep enough to make the internal erosion or piping occur. So in this site, we can see this part. Actually, this part is because of the landslide, and there is a valley between the boundary. This side is the landslide dam, and the other side is just deposit of the shallow depth flow. So we measure that. So this is the result. You can see here in this part, the structure is quite loose and some hole like this. And in the western side, this head should be boundary. This part, just that result comes because of the shallow deposit of the depth flow from the nearby mountain slope. And then this side, this one is the cell potential result. You can see in this part, just corresponding to the landslide area, we get a very negative cell potential. That means the plus ion has always been carried away, and the negative ion, the minus ion, is reached in this area. And the other side is just a positive. They don't show any underground water flowing when we make this comparison. So this is the combination of the microtremor and the support potential. So what do we want to say? Through the combination of these two methods, we can at first we can evaluate the internal structure of the landslide dam, And then we can also find where is the underground water flow located in the under the Nansa Dam. Okay? So at that time, we only measured 2 lines. One is for the microtrimmer, one for the potential. Actually, in the actual case, I want to make a lot of parallel line, so that finally you can get a 3-dimensional image for the whole Nansa Dam. Okay. So the next part is I would like to introduce something about the outdoor small-scale Nansa Dam failure test. So because in the real case, it's very difficult to measure, to observe the failure, the internal erosion or piping phenomena occurring in the natural Nansa Dam. So our idea is to make outdoor Nansa Dam model outside. So that actually this is the model. So we can, for example, here at the top we can measure. This is the cross section. We can here like this. At the top we can measure the subsidence, and also we put some sensor to measure the soil potential. Then we can find it to confirm where is the underground water flow passing under the top. Okay. So if what we measure, we hope effective. If the underground flow exists here, then we should get a soil potential value like this. And if the piping or erosion occurred here, if we can measure the turbidity of the water coming out from this site, then we can get some result of the turbidity change. Okay. Test on this site with different arrangement of the sensors. So today I would just like to introduce 3 test results to you. So at first, this one shows the image of a different sequence or different stage of the Nansa Dam failure. So we can see at the stage A, we can see the imagine of seepage water and weight floating from the weighted like this. And then in the second part, we can observe this kind of concentrated discharge. And at the stage C, you can see the emergency and the development of cracks on the dam crust like this. And finally, then we get a very sudden collapse and the final failure. And this kind of failure always corresponding to the results. Sometimes some phenomena we can see. This one is internal inside the Nansa Dam. We put some string gauge to measure the internal deformation. So at the beginning we can get some deformation at the inside of the Nansa body. But after that, there's also obvious change. And this curve is the change of the turbidity. Okay, so we can see at the lower part we have lots of turbidity change coming out in the water coming out from Nansa Dam. And this curve is the subsidence we measured at the top of Nansa Dam. So we can see at the lower part, at the after C or D in this stage, we get a very obvious or apparent subsidence at the top of the Nansa Dam, or the comparison of the turbidity. Okay, say this is the turbidity with the subsidence of the dam crust, and this one is the internal deformation with the subsidence. Okay, so you can see the turbidity and the inside vertical deformation corresponded well with the dam crust sediment. And the third test, we also measure the forward pressure inside the Nansa Dam, and we can get the hydraulic gradient. We can see in these 2 points, when the hydraulic gradient becomes bigger, then we have a rapid change of the turbidity. Okay, so we can see the turbidity is really controlled well by the hydraulic gradient. So the conclusion for the first part, we can see the phase velocity results reveal the internal structure of Nansa dams. The combination of the microtrimmer and the soil potential has a higher potential to be used to evaluate the potential of Nansa dam by the failure, by piping. Okay? And then the higher turbidity of the effluent seepage water may mean new piping in Nansa dam. The coupling with the sediment of the dam crust, the hints to predict Nansa dam failure by piping can be obtained. So this is the first part. Okay. The basic principle is proposed by Professor Sasa in 1988. So So this is the landslide model. We cut it, we put it in the X and Y direction and cut it in the measure. Then we take one measure side, measure column, and this is actually the force acting on it. Is the gravity and the earth pressure around it, and then shear resistance at the bottom. So the force is really simple, and the principle is just the whole motion will be based on the A equal to M divided by I. Then based on that model, we get the equations. The first two is motion, equations for motion is along the X direction and along the right direction. And the last one is the continuity of the volume. Okay, so through the first one, we can see in this one we can see this is the gravity item, and this is the earth pressure item, and the last one is the shear resistance item. Okay, so through the first one we can get the flux, flow flux. Then we replace we get this value, input it to this equation. And from the second one, we get another one, input it here. And finally, through this equation, we can get the height change of the landslide body. So this is the simulation of the landslide. So what we have to do is talk about consider the tangent phi A, which is called the apparent friction angle, the friction coefficient. Actually, this parameter is very important for the landslide simulation, or not only for the simulation. Okay, actually, in the real landslide motion, I think is this parameter control the landslide motion. Okay, so how we get this model? At first, I would like to thank Professor Hanga, give us a very good hint about that. So we proposed the two-layer structure of landslide, something like that. Here, the two layers means the sliding mass layer and the sliding zone layer. Okay, so during landslide motion, the sliding mass will change its height, its thickness, and the shear zone will change only its shear resistance. Okay, so our model is for the shear resistance applied along the sliding zone. Okay, so in the PRI, Kyoto University, we have conducted lots of ring shear tests, and we found this is one of the results published by my colleagues. And he says, we can see, for very long shearing, we can find, all of them. Even you have the test started at different normal stress, but finally, all of them comes to the same steady state. Means they have the same shear resistance after very long shearing. Okay, so based on this test result, we propose this kind of model to show the change of the apparent friction angle or apparent friction coefficient during landslide motion. So what does this mean? For example, this is the initial state of a slope. Okay, if the landslide has been triggered by a earthquake in dry season, we can see something like that. So the stress path will move up and reach the failure line. In this case, landslide will move just in a very limited displacement. But if this area is fully saturated, and if during the failure, after the failure, if excess population can be generated inside the sliding zone, we can see the shear resistance will decrease to a very low level. Okay, so from this point to this point, the landslide motion, we have acceleration. Okay, so after that, so what is the apparent friction coefficient? We take it like this. This is the shear resistance. At the beginning, the sliding mass don't change so much, so they keep the normal stress at this point. Okay, so at the beginning, at the first stage, the apparent friction angle is this one. It's very small, and gradually, because of the sliding mass becomes thinner and thinner, the normal stress becomes smaller and smaller. Then we get the apparent friction angle becomes bigger and bigger. Then landslide can stop automatically. Okay, so we propose one parameter here. We call it the BSS. Is the parameter for the excess population potential. So it means if the ground is dry like this, we have a very small value for BSS. If it's fully saturated, we can give the higher value for that. Okay. So then we can just show you one result is a case study on front landslide occurring in Canada in 1993. So this is after the landslide occurred. This shows the area. Okay. So this is this is the parameter we input in the simulation. Actually, everybody can understand this kind of parameters. Yeah, shear resistance, power pressure, something like that. Yeah, then we get the result like this. So now it's just the start. Yeah, from this side, and gradually it moves down to this is the small body, and cross the small body. And this side, in the opposite side, you can see the topography is a little bit becomes higher. Okay, so you can see the landslide just climb a little bit to the opposite bank and then flowing horizontally along the body like this. We also get some another different application. Yeah, all of them occurring in Japan. Okay, you can see occurring like that. And if occur in the body for very long traveling distance, it will move like this. So we can also simulate the motion of the right landslide when they come to debris flow. Okay, so this one in this area actually landslide occurred 2 times. So this phenomenon can also be quite well simulated. The conclusion for this part is through the combination of Sasa's geotechnical model of landslide motion and that one proposed by us in 2002 conveys the simulation for landslide motion similar to the actual case. And this program can be used for prediction of landslide motion if we can obtain the mechanical properties related to landslide motion. So finally, I want to close to give you a simple information. So just this month, we applied the UNESCO chair with the cooperation of ICL, and this UNESCO chair has been officially approved by UNESCO. And this is just a draft of the UNESCO chair logo. So I hope everybody can join us to. The purpose for this chair is to improve the relationship between the environment and the society. Yeah, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Wang, for sharing with us many case studies and also the results of simulation. I think it's quite interesting, and many of you in the floor have experience of using these kinds of methods. So please, now we have time for questions and also comments, if any.
Wasowski, National Research Council of India. I have a question about the application of passive geophysical methods for surveying dams. It's a very interesting subject. The question is that most of the landslide dams are short-lived, right? So I guess you would need fast or expeditious techniques, right? Could you comment on how much time you need to survey your dams? And how much time for processing of the data?
Thank you so much for the question. Actually, our target is for the long existing landslide dam.
Oh,
yeah?
okay.
If the landslide dam just live 1 week or 2 weeks, actually this failure cannot be treated by the internal erosion or piping. Most of them will be, the failure will be caused by the overtopping like that. It's easy to make a prediction because you can observe the water level in upstream reservoir. Yeah. Our target is for the very long existing one, and in the downstream side, maybe a big city has been built. Yeah, for this kind of disaster prevention, we use this method. Yeah, and for the data, of course, the more measure line, the better the result. Yeah, actually, it take 30 minutes for one measurement. Yeah, so if the length is about 1 kilo. They always take one day for one night. That's the time we have.
Okay. Phase thing. Its glacial lakes also forms in a similar way, and the susceptibility of this glacial lake outburst is one of the important factors in the mountainous areas. Can we use your techniques? Second thing is, if it is going to be SP and MCAs, for a modeling purpose, we need to know about the structural features of the rocks and the other things which has got founded in this storing the water. So how do you use your techniques to these areas? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Actually, the case in Kyrgyzstan, that Lansa Dam is very complicated. Yeah, according to the investigation report, the lower part of this Lansa Dam, according to Lansa Dam, actually the bottom of it is from the glacier deposit or marine deposit. Yeah, over it is something come from the rockfall from two sides. Yeah. So the problem is if there is a difference, yeah, between the underground valley, the stable valley and the deposit, then this method can be used. Yeah.
Okay, this is time, and so we have to move to the next one. So let's give a big applause to Professor. Dr. Janusz Wasowski is a research geologist at CNR, IREI, that is National Research Council, Institute of Geohydrological Protection in Bari, in Italy.
I also like to acknowledge Professor Ranjan Kumar Dahal, with whom I had a lot of interaction by email. He made it possible for me to come here. I also like to acknowledge my co-authors who are physicists from the National Research Council. So the key points I'd like to present first. The message is that we are having now consistent and long-term acquisitions of data by different satellites, especially by the new twin satellites called Sentinel-1AB of the European Space Agency. And the very good news is that the data is free, open source. And this data can be used more effectively now for multi-temporal interferometry. And we're starting to detect pre-failure slope deformations. And this is very exciting, I think. The key improvement now is that we have more frequent acquisitions, basically every 6 days in many areas of the world. And this makes more effective, again, monitoring based on FPI, and we can complement ground-based forecasting of potential slope failures. The content, very briefly, I'll present some background information on multi-temporal interferometry, on the data that we can use, satellite radar data, and with some special emphasis on the new generation sensors like Sentinel-1. Then I will present some examples of applications of this technique for detecting slope instability hazards. The first example will be from the Apennine Mountains from Italy. I will show monitoring of a deep-seated peri-urban landslide. And then I will show an example of a huge landslide from an open-cast mine in Europe, where we did the post-failure retrospective study, and we captured pre-failure deformations. And again, this is getting exciting stuff. Then conclusions and some references for those people who could be interested in this. And finally, if I have time, I will show what kind of data are available now for Nepal, especially from Sentinel-1 and from the constellation of 4 satellites of the Italian space agency. It's called Cosmos Kymet. And these are high-resolution data, and it could be used also in Nepal. Just a brief introduction. So the multi-temporal interferometry methods use, we say, good radar targets that are stable. They remain on the ground for a long time. They give us good return of the electromagnetic signal that is sent from the radar on board of the satellite down to the Earth. And these radar satellites have active sensors, so it's not like you need sun illumination for optical data. So they are affected only very little by atmospheric absorption. Basically, these are all day, all night, all weather instrument. So this is very important because when you have a monsoon season, you get clouds every day and you cannot use optical data. So radar can see through the clouds, and this is a big advantage. And again, if you're interested in background information on this, you can check this paper in Engineering Geology. It's a review article written for people who have limited background on radar interferometry. Let's start. Okay. So again, this technique relies on good radar targets that are persistent in time. So we can use them to measure for years. And basically, these are mostly in urbanized areas, houses, buildings, and engineering structures, because they reflect the electromagnetic energy very well. And in cities like oops, sorry. Sorry. Okay. So you don't have to deploy any measurement point on the ground. You work with natural targets that you find on the ground. So in cities like this, this is Taipei, you can imagine of getting from over 1,000 to 10,000 targets on the ground. And this is an example from a non-urbanized area. And when you have sorry. Okay. When you have a rock exposure, then you get good signal reflected, and you can use that. And when you have dense vegetation, then there are problems. You don't have any good signal to work with. Grassy vegetation could be okay, and in those kind of areas, you can expect from even more than 100 measurement points per square kilometer, which is still very, very high number. Let me see. Okay. So the basic thing is very, very simple. You need satellite overpasses the same area every, say, 6 or 12 days, and it measures the distance between the sensor and the target on the ground. And if you see the distance change in time, then you have some kind of ground surface deformation. A slope, could be a landslide, could be subsidence, could be tectonics, and it could be different things, settlement. But the basic thing is very simple. You get a direct indication of displacement of the ground surface. To have good quality results, you need usually more than 20 images, radar satellite images. So you need some time, a few months at least, to get the stock of images that you can process very well. Now, I'll show an example of how we display the information derived from multi-temporal measurements. So we work with the stack of images, say more than 20. You do the processing, and then often we use optical images where we plot the targets that we identify. And this happens to be an example from Rome with the Tiber River there in the middle. And this is how it looks, multi-temporal displacement map. Green points, we have a simple convection. Green points are stable, no changes in distance between the sensor and the ground target. And then we have yellowish orange points that move away from the sensor. So the sensor is looking like this. Usually the angle is 60 or 90 degrees, subvertical. And we have an increasing distance. And in this case, the interpretation is very simple because we have this field of points that are moving down on the river plain, and this is simply due to the compression of settlements of alluvial sediments in Rome. It's interesting because this part of Rome has been built up only after the Second World War. It's the southern part of Rome. And we are still detecting these very, very slow, few millimeters per year settlements due to the presence of compressible sediments. So the technique is very, very sensitive to small deformations. And then we can display it on this kind of graph where you see the displacement trend. You have displacement in millimeters here, and you have time, and this is from 1992 to 2000. And this kind of settlement is very gradual, linear deformation, a few millimeters per year, 4 to 3 minutes per year, and no major problems here. If we are in a hilly area, then we'll have also sometimes those bluish points, and that indicate displacement towards the satellite. See, we have the slope facing towards the sensor, then if there's a movement on the slope, the distance will be decreasing, and that's what indicated with the bluish color. On the opposite side, opposite facing slope, we'll have an increasing distance, and you will see it in red. So very simple. This is just to show that when it all started in the early 90s, the European Space Agency launched the ERS satellite, and also the Japanese Space Agency launched GRS, another radar satellite. And then we see in time we are getting more and more satellites. Also the Canadian Space Agency, and RADARSAT 1, RADARSAT 2, and here what you see clearly that we're getting more and more, and for example, the NASA and the Indian Space Agency will launch in 2020 another new radar satellite, so I'm sure we'll be getting a lot of data for this area. Okay, I mentioned before the Cosmos Skymet, the Italian Space Agency constellation of 4 satellites, also the German Space Agency. These are high-resolution ComSat Korean satellite. These are high-resolution 3-meter or 1-meter resolution satellite. Sentinel-1, the great thing about it is it's free, because it's European taxpayers that are paying for it. So, but you can get it for free, and it's basically worldwide coverage of the different characteristics, technical characteristics of these sensors. And the repeat cycle or repeat frequency is important, and it has been decreasing. You see, because we need more frequent data takes. And with Sentinel twin satellites, we can go down to 6 days. With Cosmos Skymet, we can go down even to 4 days. And there will be another new generation satellite that probably will go down to 1 day revisit time of the same area. That will be really almost continuous monitoring. So things are getting great. Another thing, maximum velocity that you could measure with, and usually it's on the order of centimeters or tens of centimeters. We cannot measure anything faster because the ground is too disturbed, and we don't get the coherent signal from reflected from the ground to the satellite. So no good data. That's a limitation, but as far as the slow movements or very slow movements, things are very good. You get systematic, consistent acquisitions of data. The satellites are regular, they don't stop, they overpass the same area on a regular basis. The precision of measurement is very good, from few millimeters to sub-millimeter. It's better than GPS actually. And you can cover large areas, tens of thousands of square kilometers. And the density of measurements is amazing, more than 10,000 points per square kilometer, especially in urbanized areas or where you have engineering structures. So we obtain those ground surface displacement maps. With each target, we will have coordinates, lap long and height, and we get temporal displacement trends, displacement with time. The exciting thing is that you can do also retrospective studies, and because the space agency has those archives that go from 1992, so you can go back in time, and this is perhaps the only case that you can do that. And so this is, we talked about it 2 years ago in India. Yeah. So the satellite, like Sentinel, it flies over like 700 kilometers above the ground surface, and they have polar orbits. They go from north to south and from south to north. So they are ascending and descending, and they are looking sideways, measuring sideways, so east looking or west looking. And this is what this cartoon shows. The coverage for the interferometry is 250 kilometers wide, so the footprint is really wide, and they just fly north-south and you cover the footprint of that kind of dimension. Yeah, that's what it shows. So the satellite goes from south to north, and it covers this area. This is the Italian peninsula. So one scene or one image covers more or less the width of the entire Italian peninsula. So it's really, it's really low cost actually, we can say. And again, the peak frequency or the frequency of acquisitions of the images with 2 satellites of Sentinel on 12-day orbit. Revisit time 12 days, you go down to 6 days. But actually, if you combine west looking and east looking, you can cut down to 3 days. The revisit data tape frequency. So this is also excellent. So, okay, this is just to show the coverage in more detail of the footprint of different satellites. Sentinel, again, 250 kilometers, but it acquires in continuous mode from north to south. The earlier satellites, 100 kilometers, and those high-resolution satellites, the area covered is 40 kilometers for 3-meter resolution and 1-meter resolution, 10 by 10 coverage. This kind of resolution is excellent for engineering structures like dams, has been used successfully for dams or highways, mountain highways and railways, but today I'm talking about landslides. Okay, the first example is from the Apennine Mountains in Italy, and here you see the eastern front range, eastern part of the Apennine range, and we are interested in hilltop town stability using this technique. So all those clusters of points are small towns here, like you may have also in this country. And again, the velocity scale is here. The reddish points or bluish points indicate movement. So you get an overview of an area where you can see where you have the problem. Okay, and this is zooming on one of those towns here, and here I'm showing the satellite is moving from south to north, it's looking to the east, and this is the map showing displacement. Most of the points urban area are green, so they are stable. However, here we see a cluster of reddish and yellowish points, which indicate displacement. And this is the data from NDSAT. The color scale indicates displacement. It's saturated. I'm showing here maximum 10 millimeters per year, but it's saturated. The actual movement is a little bit more. Then here we have another satellite, which is another result from west-looking satellite, which is moving down to the south. And we see bluish points here. So the displacement is towards the sensor. Here it's away from the sensor. So we can resolve it as a horizontal component motion. But again, we are looking only at about 1 centimeter, 1.5 centimeter displacement. Still, we can pick it up very well. So this is really nice in urbanized areas. And here I'm comparing the results from Sentinel, the new satellite on the left, and NDSAT, the older satellite, which retired in 2011. And you can see the improvement. We're getting more points, like 2 or 3 times more points, especially in the landslide area. And the interesting thing is you can resolve actually you can see the sharp gradient, lateral gradient, so you can actually map the boundary of this landslide here and here. In this case, it would be difficult. Here we can pick it up very, very well. So this is also important for the people who are asking, we call it support. If they have houses damages, then there are people that will be asking here and there. But with this kind of data, you really can pick up where the landslides start. And if you go there, it's not so obvious in the field because it's urbanized area. The movement is very slow, so extremely slow, so it's hard to pick it up where the landslide starts and where it ends, as far as the lateral boundaries. Another point here is that in the parts that are vegetated here and here, the landslide starts, this is the scarp, and this is the creeks, the toe of the landslide. We're not getting any points where we have vegetation, so remember about that, this is a limitation. Okay, the interesting thing that by comparing the data from the period 2002-2011 and the recent data from 2014-2017, you can appreciate that this color has a stronger red color, and we see higher rate of displacement. And so you can distinguish really even small variation in velocity of movement. What the cause was that looking at the Google map after we got this data, well, this again, this car and the landslide right here, it picked up that there's a little scarp or something and the deformation here. So actually this higher rate of displacement that we picked up here is probably related to this recent failure that occurred in 2015. This reactivation of the toe of the landslide. And so I'll show you. Okay, that's how it looks in the field. Again, the headscarp of the landslide and the whole landslide here. It's built up there. That's where we're getting good measurement points. So all those red points are from here. And you see that there's a fresh landslide. And the photos, I went there in 2016. Still, we were acquiring the data at the time. And you see the scarp, some small houses damaged, etc. Wow. These are examples of displacement trends, and the velocity here ranges from 16 to 23 millimeters per year, and we can see some non-linear displacements or acceleration. In actual, the velocity is double with respect to the average we had a few years before. I'm sorry, but I'm really late. Yeah, I would have liked to talk about this failure. It was an exciting lecture that occurred last year in Europe in one of the coal mines. It's about 100 meters thick, 2.7 kilometers long. We did our retrospective analysis of landslides, and we picked up pre-failure information. This is how it looks in the field, and you can appreciate this is one of those big machinery. It was like 100 meters long and completely destroyed. Okay, let's see what I can show. Oh, yeah. So, okay, this is good. I can show you the displacement, the slope failure signal in displacement time series. The failure occurred on 27th September. Before we are seeing displacement. You know, open cast mines usually are unstable. The slopes are usually unstable. Moving slowly, linear displacement, and just at the failure, there's a jump and change of the signal. So we can pick it up very well. And the point is from here, from within the middle lateral part of the landslide. This point is here at the foot, and we are picking up volume here. See very slow deformation because it's moving towards the satellite, and at the date of the failure you see a sharp displacement. But this is kind of obvious. The exciting thing that we notice also, we call them anomalous displacement well before the failure. Since July, the failure is at the end of September. And you see what's happening, nice linear trend. Then starting in July, we're getting some dispersal of some anomalous movements and changes in movement rate. And see if I can show you. Okay. And then we get changes in trend. Here, again, the long-term velocity, 20 or 3 centimeters per year, and then we see this change of trend going up to 4 centimeters per year, starting from July. So again, several weeks before the failure. And in some cases, we're getting really sharp change of the trend, and it coincides at the beginning of July. So 2.5 months before the failure, there would have been time to issue some warning in this case. Or at least to say, go there and check what's going on. Okay, there are some other points that show similar behavior, and so to conclude, yeah, I hope I can. This is not the only example that we got pre-failure deformations measured. So there are some other cases. So this is not just one case that I can show you only one case today. So we can capture those pre-failure deformations. And, so it could have been used to forewarn of impending slope failure. Okay, 2 more slides, I think. This is the review article that if you are interested, or if you don't have access to that, send me an email or send a PDF copy of it. And there's another overview article on using different remote sensing techniques for landslide monitoring with emphasis on interferometry. And finally, this is the coverage for the Nepal by Sentinel. European Space Agency started to be interested in Nepal this year only. And this is good news, and because once they start, they will continue. We expect to have enough data within next year to do interferometry. We could do interferometry in Nepal. But you also have good, in some places you have good coverage of Sentinel, especially in the Kathmandu Valley and some places here that you would know. And this is by high resolution Cosmos satellite, Italian Space Agency satellite. You get 3 meter resolution or 1 meter resolution. So I think this was done for some special studies, tectonics, and maybe post-earthquake investigation. I don't know, but can be used. It's archived, can be acquired for research and for practical application. Thank you so much. Sorry for being a little bit slow and confusing.
You have shown one window of hope for us for high mountain hazards, but I would like to know what would it be very effective in case of snow and ice coverage, high mountains? Thank you.
No, snow is not good. You can monitor glaciers. You don't have too much changes, but not when it's snowing, maybe not in winter time, but in the summertime. You can monitor also displacement of glaciers because the signal is stable and more or less stable in summers. But no, if you have snow cover, the thickness will change in time and they will not measure the ground surface displacement, but snow variation, snow height variation. So yeah, but that's a very good question. It's a limit. Also in the Alps, of course, we have snow and for many months. So you have to acquire the data only snow-free time.
Okay, thank you. We conclude the keynote session, and I would like to thank all the speakers. Thank you very much. And I would like to request the President of Nepal Geological Society, Dr. Kaviraj Paudel, to honor Professor Almanka as President. And would like to request the Chair and Co-Chair to join us.
I'm Dr. Subodh Dhakal. He is a very well-known geoscientist in Nepal. He's doing the landslide research, especially in the Shivalik area, and of course he is doing very good research in the granular flow also. And he's the university professor right now in the Tiruvallur University. Okay, Janas, it's your turn. Please start.
First presentation will be by Han Chalamet from the Chengdu University of Technology, State Laboratory for Geohazard Prevention. And I'm happy to introduce you because I've known you for many years. Please.
So to start with, I want to refresh your memory about the earthquake. So about 9 years ago, in our province, Sichuan province, there was a huge earthquake with a magnitude of 7.9. And this earthquake is the country's largest earthquake in the past 60 years. It killed about 80,000 people. So it's really a catastrophic event. So the earthquake also induced a huge number of landslides, about 60,000. And we also recorded the post-earthquake debris flow. So far, there are about 400. So you can see from the picture, this is actually from one of the most damaged cities in Beichuan. You can see the damaged buildings and landslides surrounding. That's why we have a lot of post-earthquake reactivations, landslide reactivation problem, and also debris flow problem. So through this presentation, I want to, together with all of you, to discuss 4 research questions, but maybe I will only have time for the first 3. So the first is how to quantify the evolution of post-earthquake geological hazards. Are there any trends or patterns for the evolution? And what are the controlling factors? So let's say the first one. So to answer the first question, we selected about 45 catchments in this here in the epicentral area of the earthquake. and it covers about 600 square kilometer area. So it's very large area as well. We made a very detailed attribute table when we do the mapping. The mapping was done manually because there's no way to do it automatically through any kind of automatic method. I will show you some images, you will understand why. And we try to, and from this graph you can actually see, based on the different reactivation level, it shows a peak in 2011. As I mentioned, that's because of the rainfall in August 2010.
These maps show the terms, the words mapped in form of clusters. Yeah? So we have topics which were the major research themes at that time, for example. During the first period, we have, for example, child and maternal health, vision and mountain sickness, a big cluster. Agroforestry with some more emphasis on rice research, and then we have the infectious diseases here. Yeah. But then during the next 10-year period, what we see that there is expansion and differentiation of these research areas. For example, rice research is replaced by wheat research, and then the child and maternal health, this cluster has become more differentiated here, but agroforestry remains one of the important areas. And of course, a lot of progress has been made in the research infectious diseases here. A clear feature of the internationally legible publications is that we have a very high percentage of international collaboration. That, of course, we see also being called here. Okay, countries, depending on the number of papers, total papers, and also the papers which were published here. Then we have the institutions. I have put the country and the topmost institutions. Well, Nepalese are active, they are independently doing research, and what it means that. Well, these are other fields there, several fields there, and we have very high percentage of top 10% papers. I mean, very high impact here. And now I will switch to the publications related to natural geological analysis. That's the topic today. So I am focusing on Nepal.
So we suspect down deep end of the log zone around 17 kilometers and below the Iman phosphate. But this area is not densely covered by GPS. There are a few GPS, continuous GPS stations in the area, and so we have some uncertainty on the behavior of the deep portion of the segment below the Iman range.
Okay, I will cover about this is a project, the presentation outline on the project background, the incident, identify, and you can read from here. Actually, we are talking about a timeline. Before that, yesterday, I think there's one presenter also present on the pipeline. So why we present on pipeline? Actually, there is a project being constructed 500 kilometer pipeline with I think 36-inch pipeline, 500 kilometer from here to here. But there's one incident happens. The pipeline burst, leak. So what happened? So and then they start making some investigation why it failed like that. So the company engaged some of the consultants, which is from Abdul Rashid. We go to investigate. Actually, when they laid the pipeline, they didn't do any geological or geohazard assessment. They just dig and lay. Okay? They saw the soil, go to dig and lay. Regardless what is under there, regardless what is a potential geohazard, regardless anything. So now we find out actually this place in burst or leak into two pieces actually is laid on the colluvium.
So I will focus on Upper Musang area. You are geologists, so you know that is a half gravel, but this is not the topic of this presentation. And well, what matters here is it's really a very contrasted place. You know, it's a very dry, continental, and cold because it's located on the rain shadow side of the Himalayas, in contrast with the monsoon side that you all know. So there are also, if we focus a little bit, this is adapted from a paper by Burbank and co-authors. They did some work in the Marsiandi, and you see that in summertime, the high peaks of precipitation is not related to the highest elevations, but it's the maximum rainfall will be between 3,000 and 4,000 meters high. Whether in winter, you see that the curve is displaced and it's closer to the highest limits. Okay? And you see that there is little known about the northern side of the Himalayas. But so this is what we discover, this continental dry environment, and there are high contrasts in elevation, as you can see here, between the Kaligandaki, it's about 3,000 meters, and the Uprise Fort Escarpment, it's more than 6,000 meters. And there are summer rainstorms which can penetrate into the valley, and as you may know, there are violent winds. The northern one is close to low mountain, and so you see that there is a problem of water directly related to climate change, but it may increase again. And now we have also to consider the glacial system and the permafrost belt.
Presented the problem of the slope deformation. Slope deformation is a deformation phenomenon of the slope materials, and most of these materials remain on the slope without removal. Slope deformation is mainly classified into deep-seated one and shallow one. This is Futagawa fault in Mount Aso. Futagawa active fault has displaced ground surface about 1-2 meters, and the trace is about 30 kilometers long. This is active fault. This is acid caldera. Okay. This is slope disasters along road facilities. After earthquake, to make a new bridge, so we can see the internal structure of soil deformation.
I'm Narayan Kun. I'm professionally I'm a geotech engineer. I work for a small organization based in Pokhara. It is called Keduri Agricultural Aid Association, but it's called Nepal. And I'm working for that organization since the past 20 years. My today's presentation is the construction practices in rural but remote areas in Nepal without giving the due consideration of engineering geology knowledge. Most of you know this is multi-level bridge. If someone asks to you or us, what is the most developed area that Nepal has witnessed in the last decade? The main infrastructure projects that Nepal is witnessing in its remote area. I'm talking only the micro, mini and small. And yet, if somebody doesn't know that, I want to say micro means less than 100 kilowatt, mini means less than 500 kilowatt, and small means greater than 500 kilowatt. Wow. So the main reason is, unless we to select a good site, unless we to build the project in a good geological area, then that is not going to be sustainable. Because ultimately, everything rests on the ground, nothing rests on the air. It is because of the road construction, not a natural one. Big landslide, you know. And this road was constructed some 4 years ago. Now, almost it has been 4 years, and it is not a service yet.
From this sequence of change of images, we can say that the center and the western part is highly susceptible for ground subsidence. Even recent few years, there has been occurred some building collapse without any reason, just a few meters down the building foundation. And we concluded in this way that the periphery zone is susceptible for liquefaction and the southeastern and eastern zone are highly vulnerable for seismic risk.
Timing warning for debris flow. But right now, the warning threshold value is of the different monitoring system all over the world is empirically determined and still rarely published. Okay, you can see this debris flow and it's coming. After the debris flow coming, the signal will be become larger. Reaching time of debris flow, we call it the ambient noise, and after that is the debris flow. But it should be smaller than debris flow duration. So from the previous observation of the debris flow, it always larger than 10 seconds. So you just simply choose the value is 10 seconds. But I will check later.
So one of the things is I spent a couple of years in Nepal, and specifically following the earthquake. And one of the things I was interested in is how we can communicate. So mine is not just to talk about the engineering or the geological phenomena, but how we can actually communicate some of our sort of scientific findings to a wider audience. So what I'm going to be talking about today is I'll provide a brief introduction to the disaster resilience scorecard. So current and future risk scenarios, so landslide risk, fluvial risk, seismic risk, how that links then to urban development, and how then that impacts. And we're all experts, everybody in here is experts in their field, be that geotech, risk, geohazard, structural, but it's also looking at how we can communicate with key stakeholders, so with government officials, and communicating our findings effectively to key stakeholders. So how do we engage our findings and persuade them to keep funding us, to keep spending money on geohazard areas? And one such tool of that, and I just say it is one such tool, I'm a bit biased because it was developed by ACOL, hence why I'm here, partly here today, is a disaster resilience scorecard. And it supports assessments and prioritisation, partially with when very limited data is available for sort of a classic risk assessment approach. So it asks questions of how resilient you are and how organised you are for disaster resilience. So how organised is Kathmandu to respond to a natural disaster? How good is it at identifying and understanding its current risk and its potential future risk? So what is its seismic hazard, its landslide hazard going into the future? It's looking at infrastructure resilience, and my focus has really been in Nepal, and it's my talk in another session this afternoon, is looking at the resilience of infrastructure within Nepal, so rural transport infrastructure.
The title of my presentation is Influence of Bottom GRC on propagation during injection into prolific fracture. This figure shows the safety in China coal mines. The Chinese government has attached great importance on mining safety, so the safety situation continues to improve. So this picture shows grouting. This is in the shaft, about 1,500 meters depth. And this is the sample. The white strips are the chemical growth. So the statistics shows that more than 90% water rush hazards in China, in Chinese coal mines, are related to geologic fractures and faults. And we use a 10 standard buttons GRC sections with a step of 2.
And the main goal of the project is to provide technical plan for the mitigation of existing high-risk landslides in the working districts and to reduce disaster risk and conserve the Chure area. And some of the specific objectives are to prepare landslide inventory, GIS database and inventory maps, landslide characterizations belonging to geological, geotechnical, topographical and geometry, and landslide hazard maps using spatial modeling, volumetry and risk assessment, landslide mitigation prioritization, landslide mitigation designs, and to develop the national resource capacity in this area. So methodology for the field component, we are geological investigation and engineering geological investigation, geotechnical investigation and social survey for volumetry assessment and risk assessment. And these are some of the tools we have been using in the field. For example, some of the results, what we have been producing right now is something like this. This is the inventory of the different districts data that belongs to, for example, what are the area of that district and what are the area of landslide in that district, and those statistics we prepare like this.
REST 2D inversion is a commercial software of the Geotomos Malaysia. These are the basic parameters we use to invert the obtained estimated values. Standard correlation table we use to interpret our data, which is solely based upon the work of Reynolds, OIO Kita, WCS and JICA 1995 and 1996 in Chorolpa Glacier, on the 2002 Lagi Glacier. Greater than 20,000 Lohameter are assumed as a dead ice. This is the result of the profile 7, in which we can see this is the Indal outlet channel. As we can see, which shows the lowest resistivity values. We use dry boulder as a demarcation of when there is a ERT line from here to here, and we observe in field dry boulder was located right here, and that's extended ground. So we interpreted that resistivity, high resistivity patches is a dry boulder. The negative numerical shows the position of the dead ice surrounding the outlet channel.
My presentation is evaluation of sediment dynamics of mountain stream based on variation of sediment deposition. Recently, preventing sediment disaster is getting more and more attention with frequent occurrence of landslides and slope failure. In order to solve these problems, it is necessary to clear the location of sediment production and the sediment transport volume and the timing of sediment moving. But regional geology is different. Couch River is composed of sandstone mainly. Conversely, Mustang River is composed of mudstone.
Past reports, books related, journals, and web pages related to DRI in Pokhara Valley. Some of them have already completed, so we have to be done to find out the final results. So this is how I went house to house for the household survey, and it was randomly taken house. Some was bigger one, the smaller one, old ones, new ones. So I went to every those steps to get the survey questionnaire completed. And we also conducted the FZDs, just gathering of some people in the community level to understand their perceptions and their understanding about the disaster. So for the data analysis, bivariate correlations and independent sample tests are conducted to examine the relationship between responses and the vulnerability, as well as hazard understanding and risk perception in the community, and available commercial software also used for the analysis of the data. This is done for till date. And these are the questions I used for the survey. I used Nepali language so that everyone can understand. And this is the percentage of the responder. There are 15 now, about approximately 60 male and 40 female. And these are the age distribution for the survey. There were 35 to 40 age group people were mostly surveyed for the household survey. And looking at the correlation, they will find that there is a negative correlation exists between the responses of the consecutive disaster-related questions. That shows that they are not fully aware about how disaster, what is the DR education, and they are giving the same responses for the different similar type of question, different responses for the similar type of question. And looking at the understanding of disaster preparedness, people are. I asked them in the one ranking for the 1 to 3, the disagree, agree, and don't know. People, I'm sorry, this is not working. Oh, it's working. So when we look at this, disaster is very destructive. People, they agree, and we have to keep stock of the goods. They do agree. They do agree that they know about the disaster-prone area, but most of them also don't know about the disaster-prone areas in the Pokhara Valley, and they are also not aware about the escaping during the disaster. That is, they disagree that they can escape during the time of disaster. That means that they are not fully aware about the preparedness method as well. They are only focusing on the response and the reconstruction that we learned from the recent Gorkha earthquake.
I'm from China University of Geosciences in Beijing. My title of presentation is Susceptibility Zoning of Complex Landslide in Lanzhou City using the logistic regression method. First is landslide in Lanzhou City and its geologic background. And second is the factors controlling and influence the landslide in this city. Third is conjunction the logistic regression models. And fourth is the susceptibility zoning of the landslide and their verification. And last is conclusion. There are also some more than 10 faults across this city, but most of them are inactive faults. 20 degree to the 45 degree, for 45 degree. And for slope height, the landslide, the slide mainly occurred on the slope, just higher than just 40 meters.
Here is Godavari Kola, this is Korku and Roku, and from river, Bagmati river is this. Southern tributaries were subsequent to formation of the Mahabharat Lake, and main sediment source is the Puchaki group of rocks and valley sediments. And sediment dynamic of these tributaries are very important. This is the geological map of Kathmandu Valley after DMC 1998. It's a south part where source rock from Puchaki group, Stung formations, and valley sediments. We had used to find cross-section area, velocity measurement by flow meter, and to calculate stream discharge. For suspended sediment, we have taken water sample from the stream and use regression method to calculate suspended sediment load. And for bed load, we have to use Wolfman table count to find D50, and then we calculate bed load and stream competence. Velocity and area, we have used Vasanjada empirical formula, and we use boundary shear stress, dimensional less shear stress, critical dimensional less shear stress. It's from Ship's curve and stream power calculation, and this is Ship's curve, and we use to find critical shear stress from this Ship's curve and results. We can see fluctuations also we can see, and this is the graph where we can see shear stress ratio with distance. This is the Godavari Kola, Kurku Kola, and Sapu Kola.
So, and this is the lower section of the same Ramsey landslide, and the people are living with the landslides over there. And because how vulnerable and how dangerous situation is there, you can imagine that. And the sudden, there almost 120 households are living there. Maybe one of the reason why such landslide is oftenly over there, and one of the reason is massive upliftment, because all this area lies in the Kuncha formation, and this Kuncha formation is greatly uplifted over there. So that is the one of the reason why such landslide is often occurred. And when there is high precipitation and when there is in the rainy season, land mass gets oversaturated and it loses the equilibrium. So it ultimately falls down. In the square you can see the school is over there, and just on the top of this school the huge rock masses over there. This landslide, there were more than 50 houses. We talked about we talked to the villagers, and they said that 50 households were affected by this landslide.
Illustration and photo are state of the jacking method. Then there is no harmful effect on surrounding area, and the construction period can be shortened too. The diameter of the starting is larger than the reaching side. Starting side. This is the outline of the experiment area. That is the mouth hole and the borehole and shift location. Interval of the north shift is 20 meters. South shift interval is 40 meters. Short time using piping. This is 5.1 depth of the drain. After 3.5 depth of the pump, changing, starting.
So my study started with the next study, obviously from the review of the published and unpublished literatures, and then we have a field work and the data preparation. Especially data preparations were the 8 parameters which has been used: the elevation, slope, aspect, drainage distance from drainage and as road, and then geology, land use, and the rainfall. So data analysis method, the previous time so many new method which I have learned. My method is especially based on the statistical index method, which is the bivariate analysis, especially the weight method. So tools and equipments are used, that is the toposit index numbers you can see in the pictures as well. A geological map from the Department of Survey, GIS data from again Department of Survey, rainfall data from the Department of Hydrometeorology and GIS software inventory, Excel and Google Earth image. Landslide inventory map is basically is the localization, identifications of the landslide in that study area. So there is a 71 landslide which was digitized. Average area is covered by the 67.25 kilometer squares. This is the elevations map with the causative factors. There are the 8 causative factors which are used to prepare the landslide susceptibility map. Basically, the elevations where you can see the 600 to 900 meter range where the higher chances of the probability of occurrence of the land susceptibility. Let me introduce what is the mean of susceptibility. Susceptibility is about the probability of occurrence of the landslide. So the slope of the study area, that is ranges from the 15 to 60 degree, and generally most of the article that I have read and reviewed, it says that the steeper the slope and higher chances of the probability of the landslide occurrence. That's why even in my study as well, 45 to 60 degree, which is the highest chances of the probability of the landslide. Phyllite is basically the weak rock. I'm not that kind of geologistic person, but the minimum criteria of phyllite is the one of the weak rock, considered as a weak rock.
Whiteboard. Please. Thank you very much, Chair, Co-Chair. Thank you very much for having me. So, my talk is going to be building on some work that I've been doing over the last few years, investigating the difference of the impact of earthquake and monsoon-induced landslides on the transport infrastructure. I'm an engineering geologist by trade, and I work predominantly in the transport sector as well as the mining sector, so I'm very interested in how sort of natural events impact sort of facilities such as transport, railways, airports and those sorts of things. Sort of a classification of difference between monsoon and earthquake-induced landslides, and that's really in terms of numbers. And a case study. So mine is based, I've done a reasonably extensive travelling around Nepal, but this is just based on 2 specific sites that I've looked at. The Araniko Highway to Kadari, and then some remote communities in Gunda district, about 6 kilometres from the epicentre. There's estimated to be about 1 billion people who require access using rural and remote trails. In Nepal, this is the most recent figure that I could get, it's about a few years old. It's estimated that about 1 million people use these rural and remote access to access hospitals, schools, markets. So looking at the difference between monsoon and earthquake-induced landslides, and this is really in terms of numbers. So the 2015 Gorkha earthquake, different figures, over 3,500. I've also heard a figure of 25,000 individual landslides mapped. So this figure is in groups of landslides where they've occurred in close proximity to one another. And the major roads and infrastructure was largely unaffected. The roads that I travelled post-earthquake sort of showed that. But it had significant impact on what I call remote infrastructure. So this is just to show you where I've sort of travelled sort of all up to Pokhara, all the way to Kathmandu, and then all the way to Kadari, and then looking at some of the remote communities up in Gunj district, just northeast of Gorkha, where you need a 4x4 or something like that to get that. But then when you're starting to have to access all these small little trails or beyond this, is then what I'm classifying as remote. And there's some asset management, but maintenance is reactive rather than proactive. And it's heavily impacted by both monsoon and earthquake-induced landslides.
Debris flows earthquakes are widely during the whole alignment. The four-letter faults are mainly developed in the channel crossing zones and the high body zones, especially as further crushing out the Mara Mountain and more than 8 east and west trending fault across the high body zones. Thank you for listening.
What we're trying to do is incredible, and you have every problem there, but you also have good people to do this. How much construction has been done, or is this only in the planning stages now?
We now, our country have to put forward these investigations, and we now, it's not a planning, we just to make some work we now do some further investigating.
So you're the field investigation, so no construction of tunnels, bridges, highways.
It's just a planning.
Just planning.
Today I'm going to share our study, or you can say our experiences and development of procedure to create building inventory for earthquake loss assessment and risk management. Actually, there are, basically if we speak, there are 3 main areas for earthquake hazard loss estimation methodology. They are hazards, that's potential hazard. But our study or our working area is on building inventory and developing a proper procedure to create a quality building inventory that will help for damage assessments, or that will help for vulnerability assessment in future, vulnerability assessment of the urban areas, that will help us for catastrophic modeling, that will help us for risk estimation, disaster management, and for earthquake emergency response activities. So we studied and we reviewed different documents, different models, and we use GEM tools and models because GEM is working globally to collect the information on building inventory, or working globally to estimate the loss due to which will be occurring because of the future earthquakes. So we used IDCT tools and based on GEM taxonomy, and initially we conducted surveys with the help of IDCT tools, and then following the GEM taxonomy. After creating that application and after developing the questionnaires, this is the overall inventory workflow during the survey and what is to be happen after the survey. So initially we worked with field paper maps for mapping purpose. So generally, and for the maps we used Google Earth.
Right after the earthquake, and see what it looks like now. Okay, we can move ahead. Okay, close a view of Lalbagh city. Barpak town. Go ahead. And wait. Now I bring you a little bit east from Barpak. These are some of the features. The right one on the top, big mountain collapse over here, and you can see a lot of other things, landslides, soil tension crack, so many things happening over there. The same thing, right? That is Laprak village. You can see so the large number of soil tension cracks and landslide. Wait, 3 weeks ago, we cannot figure out whether there was cracks or not. Okay, next. Oh, it's just right after the earthquake, I visited the area, and the person next to me on the left is Prime Minister, former Prime Minister of Nepal, and he also visited and requested us geologists to have a geological study to perform the rapid geological assessment of the area for the settlement. And it is what it looks like. The Laprak village was completely destroyed, and then because of the landslide, it is now relocated around here, and it is under construction like this. Okay, it's my village. Okay, and it's just what is got on my laptop. I just put the last slide. Okay, thank you.
Excursion planning by Japan Society of Engineer Geology, because most of participants from Japan is first time in Nepal. So this excursion is beginner for Nepal. So we plan to visit, start from Kathmandu, Pokhara. It's the most famous tourist route, but it is very interesting from a point of engineering geology. Excursion is to observe geomorphological and engineering geological characteristics of midrand. The focus is midrand. People visit Nepal is to see the higher Himalaya is most attractive place. But from engineering geology, midrand is very attractive. So during the excursion, we plan to visit, observe the damage in midrand due to the Gorkha earthquakes. So excursion schedule is, this shows the excursion schedules. Please. Departure time is 7:30. So I would be appreciated if you all the member gathers meet at this before 7:30. The first day of this excursion, we start from Yakande, this hotel, and to Pokhara, with visiting through British Highway and visiting Gorkha. And second day, our excursion is around Pokhara Valley. The excursion will be end 2 days. So Saturday is your own time. You can go directly Kathmandu by plane, or you can enjoy the trekking in Pokhara, around Pokhara. Pokhara is located here. So Pokhara, Kathmandu, Gorkha, Pokhara is very interesting place. So let's go next. Please next. This is first stop near the side of Turisri River. So next is stop is we observe the terrace deposit. Terrace deposit is is a lake deposit, and sometimes have contained huge debris flow. It might be caused by a glacial lake outburst flood. This is very huge boulder from higher Himalaya. It's very interesting. Next. Yeah, this is a lunch. Riverside Springs is a good place for lunch. Next, please. Why this landscape formed? This we first next visit is a landslide dam site of the river, and I forgot the name. What is the name? Yes. So, and surprising is Gorka town is very few damage. Only the Gorka Palace on the ridge was damaged, but most of houses is very few damage. And we the second day is excursion around Pokhara.
Also Hideki Shimada, and through this research I try to make many tests, especially for creating rocks in Indonesia. And I would like to start with integration of my presentation and try to explain some lessons learned from Indonesia because we have many problems regarding with the clay bearing rocks in Indonesia, and explain improve slacking index test which I developed more than 10 years ago, and result of slack deterioration characterization from the new sample in Indonesia, and I will conclude my presentation. 2 years or maybe more than 10 years longer. And actually, Saki also suggests some model of slacking. There are actually 5 different slacking modes, from mud, flakes, chip, fracture, slab, and there is no slacking process anymore. Sometimes the problem occurs. I'll show you some example from Indonesia. We have any problem regarding the construction of hydroelectric project, that I will show you what the problem here. And also we have some actually related with the mining activity, coal mine activity also in Ombili area, Tanjung Enim, in Sumatra, still in Sumatra, and in Java. We have also many kind of problems regarding with this kind of rock.
We first calculate the transit liquefaction depth in this area according to the elastic theory. We can see the maximum transit liquefaction depth is about 2 meters. And then we calculate the cumulative liquefaction depth in this area according to the dynamic triangle test results. We can see the maximum liquefaction depth can be up to 4 meters. So the effect of seabed liquefaction in this area cannot be ignored. We conduct some laboratory experiments to study these 2 effects. For the first one, we prepare the sediment samples in this vacuum preloading consolidation tank, and the variation of sediment erodibility was consistent with sediment strength. The seabed experiences wave action of 50-year recurrence interval. The maximum attenuation degree of threshold velocity and the critical shear stress would grow to about 46% and 72% respectively. We use the sediment samples collected from the River Delta, and the pore water pressure and the suspended sediment concentration were measured during the experiment. We also found the later slope increase lag behind of the pore water pressure. So we speculate that the first period refers to the surface sediment erosion flux.
My name is Vinod Adhikari, and during my work there we develop statistical coordinate analysis, and on the basis of the coordinate analysis we will try to investigate or we will try to understand the ground motions during earthquake. So my work is basically concerned on the periodicity of the ground motion. The main cause for the earthquake was caused by the ongoing collision between the Indian and Eurasian tectonic plates. This is a well-known fact. And past earthquake in our regions, The last massive earthquake to occur in this area was the equator in Nepal regions, and this is one of the reasons, because the main cause for the earthquake was widespread devastation and rapid severe flood in Nepal and India, and this is one of the reasons why the April 2014 earthquake has caused so much damage and loss of life. This is the sources that are taken from several. And what caused this earthquake to occur? In Nepal, the 7.8 Nepal earthquake occurred as a result of thrust holding on near the main Himalayan mountain thrust between the Indian plate and the overheading plates in plate to the north. Aftershocks. Basically, my work means our work is concerned on the periodicity observed on the aftershocks ground motions. So these are the reasons why we can see the aftershocks greater than 4 magnitude. And main objective, the most fundamental objectives of our work is to study the time frequency characteristics of the aftershocks ground acceleration northeast of using Fourier analysis. Basically, in our work, we are using continuous Fourier transforms. Especially in this work, we try to obtain, we obtain data from 4 neighboring stations, acceleration, and here this is the Center Department of Geology, Tiruvallur University, Kirtipur. Here in this graph, we can see this is for north, east, and off, and here we can see the band of frequency. Here, insignificant means very compared to this aftershocks, we can see here insignificant acceleration. So the periodograms, histogram do not indicate nothing. But here, when we have a non-transitant signals, mean non-stationary signal, means highly fluctuating signals, we can see here periodicity from 16 to 64 periods. Periods means it automatically gives frequency. So we can see the band of frequency here. So observing these 3, we can compare each one. Similarly, in case of another University Grand Commission of the Sanotimi, we can also compare these 2 and analyze where we have a high or more perturbed ground motions. Then comparing these 2 and other further, here also we can see this is the Kirtipur University of this Kirtipur for ground motions, and we can see and we can compare and we can analyze the frequency or band of frequency from each stations.